All right, Impressions Expo in Long Beach is so close. We are getting really excited about heading out to the convention center for the largest Impressions Expo. And the expo is going to be open January 23rd through the 25th, but we're going to kick it off on January 22nd with some great sessions and workshops. Today, I am very excited to have Katie Wubben here with me with Trouble Me Knot Embroidery, and she is one of our speakers at the Impressions Expo. She's got two great workshops that we're going to dive in today. So, Katie, thank you so much for joining me. Are you excited to get out to Impressions Expo?
Absolutely, I am. Looking forward to it, and it seems like it's creeping up really fast, so I'm getting ready for it.
No, there's a lot to do and prepare. It's going to be here before we know it, that's for sure. Before we dive into some of your sessions, for people who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your journey as an entrepreneur and how you got into embroidery and your passion behind that.
Absolutely. So I started my firstborn business when I was 18. And a lot of people say it was really brave, and I'm like, I don't know, there's a fine line between brave and stupid, and I was right in the middle of it. I don't regret it by any stretch of the imagination. It's been wonderful, and I would say I've since become kind of a serial entrepreneur. So the firstborn business was started out with vinyl graphics, cut, no printers or anything fancy. That stuff was kind of up and coming when I started my business, and I started with less of a budget than a lot of businesses probably start with, and then I just grew it from there. And eventually I added apparel. I did cut vinyl first because I had the cutter. All I had to do was add the press. And then when I started to get to the point where I'm like, I just don't like the quality. Transfers have come a long ways, don't get me wrong. This has been a while back. So there's so many advancements now, but at that time there wasn't a ton of really great quality transfers that lasted a long time. So I started screen printing, and of course with that came a lot of customers that were like, well, I want beanies or Sherpa things. Of course, I'm from Iowa, so we have a lot of cold weather gear, and people wanted those things decorated too, but screen printing doesn't belong on everything. And I kept saying no because I was self-taught in screen printing for the most part out of the gate, which then I realized was really, that was the stupid part, not the brave part. Eventually figured out, I need to get professionally trained how to do these things really well to make sure that my quality is the best it can be. And so at that point I was kind of like, I'm not sure that I really want to take on the learning curve of a machine with lots of needles and lots of digital inputs and everything. If I could screw up screen printing with a manual press, I'm just not sure what I would do with one of those machines. And the other side of it was I saw a lot of really poor quality embroidery that really didn't make me want any part to do with that, because I didn't realize that it's within my control to make a quality product that's not rippled, puckered, and missing spaces between the threads and everything like that. So it took me a while to really decide to get comfortable with the idea of embroidery. And then I started looking at machines and bought a single needle machine and just kind of dabbled, because I was like, and when I would say single needle, I'm talking like a convertible sewing machine. So like Joanne fabric level, not anything fancy. And I just needed to know that this was something that maybe was worth looking into before diving into a machine and knowing what don't I know, because an investment in a machine like that isn't something you want to do without understanding the options. And of course, salespeople are happy to tell you the options, but you don't know what to do with that information sometimes. So what I did at that point is really dove in and did some things pretty awfully. Thought it was designs I was buying. Most of it was me, with the decisions I was making. And I'm like, wow, this is really complicated. There's a lot of supply options and a lot of design choices that go into each garment. And then when I started outsourcing designs, I'm like, well, why does it matter what's going on? Just digitize it. And I learned a lot, in that first year of what is going on. But it took me one job, 40 pieces, fleece zip-ups on my little Singer machine, 2-color logo. And when I say 2-color, it had 4 color changes back and forth, which we talk about in the session, why. It took a very long time to make those. So I realized I can make good money doing this. but not with this machine. I need to actually be in a commercial level machine if I'm going to do this. I'm not a tedious, painstaking kind of person. I like to get things done. So then I went with a commercial machine that really set me up well. And one of the reasons I bought the machine I did is it allowed my business to grow if need be, which when I started it, I really didn't think, I'm in a town of 2,500 people. Like, there's no reason I would ever need more than one embroidery machine, and now I have 3.
Wow.
And they're happy little machines, though they're big machines, but compact. Anyway, so when I took on that first machine, it paid for itself probably in the first year easy, if not faster. The first job, I think, paid for about half the machine. So I had pre-sold some work before I bought it because I really needed that confidence, like I can get this paid for really fast. And then the growth of that business, there were times where I was, just me. There's times I've had employees. Now I'm back to just me. And I've enjoyed every step of that way and at each stage for different reasons. So that's kind of what all of my sessions are based on. And when I got into embroidery, I was so reluctant. I really didn't want to do it. All I could think of when I thought embroidery was like left chest business logos, which are profitable but boring for me. And I thought grandma stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to do ugly grandma stuff. And so I don't do ugly grandma stuff. I do super cute grandma stuff.
Super cute grandma stuff is definitely in.
Yes, super cute grandma stuff. And of course, lots of other things. But yeah, so and embroidery can be done really well. And that was that first year after I bought that commercial machine. I bought a machine that came with some training so that I could actually hit the ground kind of knowing somewhat what I was doing. And then from there, I was like, there's a lot that I still don't know. And I just dove really deep into each thing, which then led me eventually to start selling machines. And when I did that, I love sales, but I also love spending that time. It gave me opportunities to go, like I've been all over the US doing trainings on site with customers, which is so cool because I get to cater their training to their business. So I look at what their goals are because everybody's are different. Some want the left chest logo all day long and hats, and other ones want to do the cutesy things or the one-off boutique items, a lot of baby items and different things like that. So I'll cater their training to their business, which is super fun. And a lot of the questions that I would get asked repeatedly, I'm like, okay, add that to the book. So I have my own little training book that I go by. I based it on what was required of me to train with the machine I sell, but also added in a lot of extra content that was kind of a constant question point. So,
excellent.
Yeah.
So you're really bringing a lot of that passion of teaching and so probably a lot of those questions that you got, on the road into some of your sessions here. You've spoken before at Impressions Expo over in Texas, and I think you said this was your first time in Long Beach. Tell us about this upcoming session, the one that you have, the Embroidery Essentials, a hands-on workshop for boosting confidence and perfecting technique. And what are some of the takeaways that attendees are going to get from that workshop?
So the biggest thing with that workshop is it's really built on the core value of people don't know what they don't know. So my own experiences in my business as I took on embroidery, the fear points, what were the scary or hard to remember things. So I teach on those factors, like the big puzzle that comes together, the supply choices, the digitizing choices, managing customer expectations, and understanding the garments you're working with, which have exploded in the past 10 years. Embroidering on a basic sweatshirt, normally you can put a crappy digitized logo on it, make poor choices along the way, and you're going to come out with something pretty decent looking. Grab a polyester performance t-shirt or polo and do the same thing, and it's a train wreck. It's a rippled, crumpled mess. And so we talk about all the pieces that come together, kind of like building a house is one of the analogies I use during the class. What's our foundation, and how do the pieces on top of that work together to make your embroidery project not only look good when it's on the machine and coming off as a finished product, but then as the customer's washing it and using it in their life. So that's all built on my own experiences plus a lot of technical side of things, because I don't want to teach somebody the basics of kind of here's a couple bullet points. I want to actually have them remember things and take away how to actually do this. So I try to throw a lot of cheat sheets along the way and memorable analogies so that it's for anybody to come and take the class. If they don't know anything about digitizing, they might not understand what underlay is. They might not understand when I say backing what that even is. They may not have bought a machine yet, and that's perfect. I love when people come to me before they've made the mistakes. They get to learn and get a good foundation of skills before they even purchase, which also helps them identify what machine might be right for them, what features they might want based on what kind of product am I making, what kind of skill set do I already have, or what are my, I know I don't like tedious work, so for me a machine that had a lot of needles so I didn't have to rethread all the time, I know that now is a value. Before I bought my machine, I didn't realize how much time I was saving myself. I kind of thought, gosh, do I really need a lot of needles? But there's a lot of good reasons to have lots of them.
Yeah. And with your session and workshop being really the day before the expo opens, that's going to be great to kind of set people up for when they hit that expo floor. There's going to be a lot of choices from machines to materials and new offerings for the year. So they're going to be able to have a game plan from the advice in that workshop into, okay, now what am I going to put this into action with? So those are great to see those two, elements go side by side. Of course, obviously being efficient and effective with your business is important, but we all got to make money. So your other workshop that you're doing on the pricing and profitability masterclass, that's also going to be taking place on January 22nd. Tell us about that one and who that session is going to be good for and what you're hoping that you're going to accomplish during that time.
Absolutely. So that session, this is actually the first, this is the second because I did this class, of course, at the other show in Texas, but before that, I had not taught at any of the shows or anything in that capacity talking about pricing. And it's a topic I've pitched so many times because it's the number one question I get asked if it's not in my training book. Every customer wants to know and every class attendee wants to know, how do I price my stuff? And I'm like, okay, well, what is your shop rate? And they're like, my what? And I'm like, you need to know your shop rate. And they're like, well, how do I know that? So we talk about not only because your pricing matters for so many reasons. I can't tell you what my prices are. I'm in a 2,500 population in Lake Mills, Iowa. My expenses are different. My lifestyle choices might be different. My expectations of what my business is going to do might be different. Some people are operating out of their basement. Some are operating in a retail space that's costing them thousands of dollars a month. Might have lots of employees, might have few. And then evaluating your goals, not just where you are, but where do you want to be. So I look at a lot of how to build those numbers, where to find them, and then not just knowing what they are, but how to put that shop rate together. And then also to evaluate that and use that number to build your pricing structure. So it's a really, really in-depth discussion on all of those things, but then also what to do with it after we have all those numbers. Because it was mind-blowing to me as I started to really understand what I was doing after I got past some of the stupid part of me that, didn't know what I was doing in the first, couple of years. And I had a shop manager at the time who said, I think we need to evaluate and fire some of our customers. And I'm like, what? Why would we do that? And she's like, I don't think that everything is making us money. And I'm like, okay, well, let's talk. And so we sat down and we evaluated all of our jobs and figured out, yep, some of them are break-even jobs. Some of them we're actually losing money on. That's really bad. How does that happen? Well, it happens, I can almost promise, in every business because things change over time. And then customers make guarantees. I don't know if other people have this, but I had a restaurant that said, we'll always place 100-piece orders. We'll always do this, that, and the other thing. We just want a one-color left chest logo and a one-color back. Okay, great. It turned into 3 years later, they're placing orders of 5 different designs, maybe 8. So each one we're printing 10 pieces at a time. And at the beginning of this, I let them get away with it because I felt like I needed their business to pay my bills, to pay my staff. But at a certain point, my schedule filled up with people that were paying us what we should have been paid. And this job was not anything but stress to me. So we set better boundaries, made it more profitable. And so we talk a lot about that in the pricing and profitability class, is how to identify what isn't working, what's not making you money, or what could be making you more money. And then also how to kind of finesse the process. What processes are actually inefficient and which ones need to be created to make your business more efficient. And there's a lot of discussion on those things, just to kind of, I think one of the most valuable nuggets I ever got through a business lunch and all these little different conferences I would go to about businesses in general is, if you want to work on your bottom line and get it to be more profitable, you don't look for the 20% and the 30% and the 10% to cut from your expenses. They're big things like your rent, your wages, you can't get rid of them. But what you can do is find 0.5% here, a 1% there, a 3% here, and pretty soon you've cut 10%. So we'll talk a lot in the class about what to look for those little percentages that turn into big savings. So it's a really, really packed class. Lots of good information.
Yes, and hearing some of those very specific stories that have happened to you, because so many other business owners, they might be in the middle of going through that, or they maybe are going to go, oh my gosh, I wish I would have done that sooner. So that is something that's so great about these sessions, is that people are going to get to hear your stories, actually, things that you've gone through, and then other people in the classroom too. We always tell people, make sure you bring your questions, because the person next to you might have the same question. So excellent. Well, what advice, obviously this event is in January, so everybody's planning for their year ahead. What are you seeing in the year ahead, and what advice would you have for maybe a newer business owner? What should they be focused on as they come and spend their time at Long Beach?
Sure. I think that, the biggest thing I could say is January kind of brings out the goal setter in all of us. So knowing why you're going to the show. What's your goal? Are you learning? Are you buying? Are you doing both? Are you exploring, looking for new technology? Kind of understand why you decided to get your ticket and go to the show. And then also be open to opportunities. Like I said, embroidery was something I took my Great Pyrenees Anatolian Shepherd dog to the vet, and he did the whole arms out and pushing. That's me going into embroidery. So, being open to that opportunity. I should have been earlier, because honestly, after I bought my first machine, the only regret I had was, wow, I should have done that a lot sooner, which is something I'll talk about in the pricing and profitability class too, is because I was really, really trying to not pay interest. I wanted to pay everything as I went and have very little overhead as far as outstanding debt. So I wanted to save money and make that choice really pragmatically. The problem was if I took the percentage of interest I would have paid if I bought that machine 2 years sooner, the money I would have made on it in the meantime, hand over fist, 1,000,000 times over, would have paid the interest. That's good debt. That's good debt to have. So obviously managing that and making those choices, but looking at your return on investment too. So being open to opportunities, and then looking at not only what does the equipment cost, but what is my return on that equipment going to be? Because obviously debt can be okay, but then you don't want to overextend and get into too many things at one time, and everything has a learning curve. So finding out, how, and don't listen to a salesperson. Ask people that are using the equipment, these events are awesome because it gives you that networking time.
Yes.
Nobody knows who their competition is. You're all spread out so far. Nobody cares. And they'll be honest and share their experiences. And I think that's so important before you invest in new equipment. Look at what kind of resources are out there, not only from the company, but then get on Facebook and look for a user group of this machine or that one. Look at what their support is, and find out, typically if you ask somebody if they like their machine and they smile and they they start babbling about it, that's a good sign. So keep all those things in mind. And then going into a new year too is a great opportunity. We all feel this new sense of like revived energy. So ride that train, get on it and ride it, because we won't get too far into the year and it starts to fizzle. So
yes,
so definitely keep that in mind. And then the other thing I would say too is just to use this time too, because January, I don't know if this is everywhere, but in the Midwest, January businesses, maybe it's because it's like 7 degrees or below zero out and people don't go out, I don't know, but our businesses tend to slow down. And then we're going into a new political climate. Obviously, that's one thing I never would have guessed, is it doesn't matter how elections go, every single presidential year, my business sales were affected. Generally speaking, there's always a group of people that clamp down and get nervous, and we probably do it too. So use that time, those slow moments, to really work on your business, because we can get stuck working in our business. So just take a step back and try to put the business on hold while you go to the show and truly check out and just absorb everything that you can.
Absolutely. And because we are going to be in Long Beach, it'll be a little bit warmer than 7 degrees. So yes, I love that. Come warm up a bit, use that time, invest in yourself, invest in your business. Katie, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I know that attendees are going to get a lot of value out of your sessions. So check it out. Workshops, we have got a jam-packed conference program for Impressions Expo in Long Beach. And then, of course, the expo floor and all the activities that will be happening there. Visit impressionsexpo.com to learn more. And conference passes are still available before the show. So, Katie, I'm going to let you get back to it. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yes, and we'll see you out in Long Beach.